Really the only thing that gon' be normal is distribution. Normal folks gon' infuse some. Optimize your lineups and you feed the rest, you mute them. Turning it up, these numbers are loud. Peeping this game from a nimbus is wild. Making it rain. While I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bell, I'm the best till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bell, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still.
And welcome into the Best Bell Fantasy Football Podcast and live stream. I'm Bradley Stalder. Tonight, I'm going to be doing a live FFPC Bestball draft. And let's get jumping into it. It's 10 p.m. There we go. So happy that y'all are joining me tonight. Of course, FFPC Bestball drafts, 28 rounds. This is a $35 entry. So if you want to jump in to the chat and comments, we can definitely do that. We're already seeing some quick movement in the draft. Justin Jefferson and Christian McCaffrey going off at the first and I hold the 5th pick, and going off the board, Jefferson, McCaffrey, Jamar Chase, Travis Kelce, Austin Eckler off the board. Pretty thirsty. And I'm looking right now. I think there's a clear, there are two clear wide receivers in this grouping, Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp. And I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill coming off of an absolutely massive season where he had career stats, even though Tua Tagovailoa missed a lot of games. So I want to be in on Tyreek Hill. I know that he's been a mid first round pick, but he's as good as Jamar Chase and in the same tier as Cooper Kupp. But if Tua is healthy, I think that Tyreek Hill, it's within the range of outcomes that he is the wide receiver 1 overall. But I think that it's still Justin Jefferson clearly as the number 1 who I would have ahead of Chase and Tyreek Hill. This is getting pretty running back thirsty so far. We're seeing McCaffrey, Eckler, Bijan, Saquon, Jonathan Taylor. Lots of running back thirst off the board. And we're looking at some of the comments. Jose's asking, is this Superflex? No, this is a 1 quarterback league. And Jose wonders which quarterbacks I like later in a Superflex best ball draft. Honestly, I don't like a lot of quarterbacks very late in Superflex, unless, that's just the reality. I like attacking elite upside with these quarterbacks. If I can double tap, some elite quarterbacks, that's the goal. But I like in the second round the Herberts and the Dak Prescotts of the world. I think those are ascending quarterback options. But if you're forcing my hand, you're saying, Bradley, you need to pick a later round quarterback that can be very valuable. I'm looking at the quarterbacks that are going, later. Let's talk about. I like where Russell Wilson is being priced right now. I like Anthony Richardson. I like Ryan Tannehill. Those are some players. And then if you're swinging for upside, Will Levis as well as just upside, straight upside picks when it comes to the fantasy quarterbacks that could be valuable to you later in your best ball drafts. Okay, well, we're looking and seeing that lots of running backs come off the board. Kenneth Walker, running back 6 and 7. Holy guacamole. I think I might have to go 0 RB in this draft, just how it's going today. AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle. I mean, if we're going to go Miami stacks, let's do that. Okay, we're going to go 2 wide receivers here. Remember, this is a 28 round draft. So because there's so much running back thirst, and a lot of depth in these types of drafts, like 28 rounds, I can take a lot of shots late on running back and just attack that position. But I'm banking on Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle being really valuable here. I know A.J. Brown was on the board there, but Jalen Hurts had already gone off the board. It was wild to me that we see Jalen Hurts there going off at that spot. This also cements me as if Miami goes nuclear, I have two top plays. I mean, Waddle and Tyreek Hill both were top 12 wide receivers in rate of finishing as top 5 wide receivers last year. These were both players who were double-digit rate type of wide receivers. And I like Waddle in the second round. I like Tyreek Hill in the first round. We've seen now 2 quarterbacks go off the board, Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. And I think where everyone is zagging, I'm going to zag, okay, with this draft. I've seen, we've seen 9 running backs go off the board before, even 8 wide receivers go off the board. Now we see Waddle and A.J. Brown, and I'm going to be able to probably hit on 3 wide receivers before, we get to this next round. Garrett Wilson goes off the board, but also I do like the running backs in like round 3. Okay. But there's also some wide receivers that I like in round 3 as well. So we'll see who comes back around to me. Being stuck at, pick number 6 is not, it's kind of frustrating, to be honest, because, you're stuck in the middle. You can't really grab too much value because, the ends will double tap and you're not sure if you need to be in the middle of the run or the end of the run. So I'm trying to do the best I can with being at the 6th pick overall, but Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle going with that Miami stack is going to be pretty powerful, I think. I'm almost guaranteeing myself, 30% of the time, 40% of the time, I'm going to get a top 5 wide receiver, whether it's Hill or Waddle, because if one gets injured, then the other, can step into a massive, massive role. And we've seen Jalen Waddle be an absolute dynamo when it comes to upside, but Tyreek Hill himself had a phenomenal season, career-setting season, now removed away from Travis Kelce and instead used in a lot of different ways in this Mike McDaniel offense. Okay, so far we see 3 quarterbacks go off the board, and that's the big 3. Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Nick Chubb goes off the board to the at the 301 to the 101. I'm not seeing too many surprises here. Still a lot of running back thirst, and I know FFPC is running back thirsty, but if we get into the playoffs and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are what gets you there, look out, because I'm struggling with the Stephon Diggs of the world. He's definitely a floor wide receiver for me. I really don't like him going at wide receiver 4. Wow. We are really running back thirsty. We've seen 13 go off. This is once again zig and zag. Ooh, okay. Mark Andrews goes off the board, and one of my favorite wide receivers here is hanging out in the 3rd round. I love Devonta Smith. And so I'm going to take Devonta Smith. I know it's not going to be a stack piece. The Jalen Hurts guy is probably really upset. But I like that 3 wide receiver start. I'm going to get, of those 3 wide receivers, we're talking almost 50% of the time, I'm probably going to get a top 5 week from them. Talk about high floors, talk about high ceilings. These are 3 wide receivers that are getting undervalued. And to start 3 running backs, am I missing something? Did I sign up for a running back premium league for FFPC, or is there just this thirst? Because right now I've seen, one team, just the 107 has gone running back. I think that's suboptimal. I was going to go Mark Andrews at that 106 in tight end premium, hopefully to stack with, Lamar Jackson coming around later, but that's not going to happen. So Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and then Devonta Smith, I think at wide receiver 12 was a great value. Najee Harris at running back 14, man, oh man, Can you imagine just passing on T. Higgins and Chris Olave in favor of Najee Harris? Like, I can't. It's unfortunate. And Bijan Robinson going at running back 3, that is interesting. Very interesting indeed. I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. Like, Bijan needs to pay off significant. Ooh, okay. This is why you draft at 10 p.m. because Justin Fields and Joe Burrow just got double tapped and not stacking. So, I mean, Justin Fields, I don't think any tight end or wide receiver for the Bears is going to be there. But Burrow doesn't stack with anybody. There's no Jamar Chase. There's no T. Higgins. So to take that piece just doesn't make sense to me for the 111. So this is extremely suboptimal. We've seen some mistakes already from some of the players in this draft. The triple tapping of running back so far, Bijan, Josh Jacobs, and Najee Harris, all have paths to failure. And then double tapping of quarterback around 3 and 4, Justin Fields and Joe Burrow. Okay, so those are 2 major mistakes so far. I do like the 104 who has Kelsey and Mahomes. I think that's a nice little stack. And then getting Ramondre Stevenson. If you're a Ramondre Stevenson believer, so be it. I am on the clock right now, and I'm looking at, is this the time to take a running back? Possibly. I think that there will be some wide receivers who come back around to me that I like. And I've drafted a lot of this player already, but I can't help myself. DeAndre Swift is a running back that I know a lot of fantasy analysts are saying, oh, well, DeAndre Swift is not, gonna do much behind David Montgomery. He's gonna get stuck. He's gonna get blah, blah, blah. DeAndre Swift had the 10th highest rate of top 5 running back weeks. Okay, he's got elite ceiling. And yes, maybe he doesn't have like a super high floor, but only once, if I recall correctly, only once did DeAndre Swift finish outside of the top 40 of running backs. So he's actually got a pretty safe floor. He's not going to bust for you too often. And I think he's the perfect hero or like late anchor RB when you need some upside. Okay. So I like DeAndre Swift at that spot. J.K. Dobbins going at running back 15 feels a little early for me. But I think that Dobbins does have a path to success of being a top 10, top 8 running back, like fitting into that Nick Chubb, like paying off in that way, like a round or 2 of value. I think that's the path for J.K. Dobbins, but I think it's going to be hard for J.K. Dobbins to get into that, like Kenneth Walker, Derrick Henry paying off ADP. Dalvin Cook going off for running back 17 is a mistake at this spot, at least based on what I've seen on ADP. I'm probably going to get a really nice wide receiver coming back around. We've seen 3 running backs go off the board so far for the 102 pick and the 107. Oh, let's scroll down just a little bit. Don't want to give away who's drafting whom. All right. There we go. So if you like the content, find this helpful, make sure you hit that red subscribe button, y'all. It's really helpful for the channel and a lot of fun to be doing these FFPC drafts. Great. This is where I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. For those who are new, my name's Bradley. You can follow me on Twitter at FFStalder. I do a lot of drafts. I do a lot of fantasy football analysis. I've been working on a lot of things in this off season. There's a lot behind the scenes happening that I'm excited to do some announcements coming up very soon. But when the time is right, I will make those proclamations. But for right now, I'm wetting your taste buds that there's going to be some awesome content coming from this channel and some partnerships that'll be worked out very soon. So hopefully y'all will be able to see a lot more of content coming out. It was also a busy week these past 2 weeks. I've finished some grad school work and also it's been testing at my school. So that's why there's been a little lag of content, but I know y'all, it's the off season. You want some more content, but we're here for it. And oh man, I'm really liking some of the players that are still hanging out here in this spot. Lots of value. It looks like, just hanging out in round 5. I think round 5 is going to be one of my favorite rounds because it's picking off value and upside at this point. So right now I went wide receiver, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith. DeAndre Swift is my pick at running back 16 in the 4th round. Oh boy. Yeah, that's a nice value on DeAndre Swift going at running back 16. I don't hate it. I know there are fantasy football analysts out there who will say DeAndre Swift not worth it. I think he still has the receiving upside. And for all the times he fell 1 yard outside the end zone, there's no way that DeAndre Swift is not going to be able to produce for you. So let's take a look. We see David Montgomery going off the board. We also see Lamar Jackson go off the board, stacking with Mark Andrews. I like that team at the 105. That's a really nice setup, that 105. And I'm looking at who's available. And wide receiver wise, let's draft some Jerry Jeudy. Okay, so Jeudy was a wide receiver that I was very out on last year. Jeudy was a player that I had almost no exposure of, but last year, Jerry Jeudy, 45% of the time was at least a flex play for you. Okay, and Jeudy, 6.3% of the time was a top 5 wide receiver. And if the offense gets any better at all, we're going to see some Jerry Jeudy, more explosion games, higher floor. So I think getting Jerry Jeudy at wide receiver 22, he can definitely, access that wide receiver 15, wide receiver 12. I think he can get there despite the fact that Denver's offense was mostly broken last year. So I think round 5 Jerry Jeudy this year is a better bet because he was going round 5 last year, and that was my concern is he needed to prove that he had to ascend, and he did prove enough for me to trust Jerry Jeudy. He's a good route runner. He has struggled with injury, and for him to slot in as my wide receiver 4 on this team, chef's kiss. I want this to be a strength of my team as wide receiver. So, I saw Christian Watson go off the board, and that's a little frustrating, but I do like Christian Watson. He was going to be a consideration here. Calvin Ridley at wide receiver 24 is a pretty decent pick. There are also some other wide receivers on the board that are looking really nice, and there are also some running backs that I'm avoiding at this spot. For instance, I'm not going to pick Javonte Williams in round 6. There's too much risk that Denver not only carries Javonte Williams along slowly, but there's also concern that Denver may draft a significant running back, or that Samaje Perine plays well enough to hinder the upside of Javonte Williams. So no, not round 6 Javonte Williams. If he falls a couple rounds, maybe I'll consider him. But coming off an ACL tear that was pretty significant and that the Denver Broncos have been concerned about, that makes me concerned as a fantasy football drafter. So yeah, we've seen some running back thirst temper a little bit, but we're still at running back 23, Cam Akers in round 6. We're averaging, now Miles Sanders. I like Jahmyr Gibbs' pick at running back 20. That could be a really fantasy relevant pick, but that's running back number 4 for that team. Talk about paying the rake here. It's very hard for these wide receivers in the later rounds to be able to pay off. Okay. And he doesn't even stack his quarterback. That's the problem is we've seen some optimal picks here. I'm also looking at more wide receivers, and I'm going to go with Jameson Williams. I like Jameson Williams. It also correlates with my Detroit pick with DeAndre Swift. I think that the Detroit Lions, are an up and up team. I am trusting the talent of Jameson Williams, and I don't even need him to be, you know, a regular contributor. If he busts this year, so be it. I have 4 other wide receivers at this point. And right now there are tier jumps between the running backs that I want and the wide receivers that are available here. So give me Jameson Williams, just the upside, like a guy who can run 4.3, a guy who comps to Will Fuller. And if we already saw Jared Goff be, a top end fantasy producer in a dome, this could mean big things. Like Jared Goff last year was quarterback number 4 in rate of top 5 weeks. That's Jared Goff. So you need to be, this allows me to then target the Jared Goffs and Tua Tagovailoas of the fantasy world. And we've seen some quarterbacks go off, so I can be a little aggressive with going after quarterbacks. Let's take a look. Probably not even this round. Yeah, maybe we can even wait another round. Javonte Williams is still available, as I mentioned before. We've seen a little bit of a wide receiver run, but I might even take a 5th one because of how spotty these wide receivers are. The reality is that, these wide receivers, even the best of them, like we look at flex rates, Keenan Allen was wide receiver 13 in rate at which he was a flex play in games that he played last year. He's wide receiver 13. He was only doing it half the time. So the best, like a top 12, top 13 wide receivers are still only getting into your fantasy football, your flex lineups 50% of the time. So like when we're playing the math game of who is going to be hitting, right? It's going to be at best, I'm hitting Jalen Waddle's, right? Jalen Waddle last year, only 43% of the time was a flex, at least a flex play. Tyreek Hill, 69%. Devonta Smith was 49%. Jerry Jeudy was 45%. So at these points, it's difficult to be able to get players who will hit for you. Whereas it's even more difficult for running back. 50% of the time was James Conner, and he was running back 9. And he goes off the board right here. But that's why you can wait on running back. Because if you miss out on the elite running backs like the McCaffrey, there was no way I was going to be able to get McCaffrey, and I couldn't get Austin Eckler in this draft. So if I missed out on that, I wanted Tyreek Hill, who, as I mentioned, almost 70% of the time was a flex play. And that's the move. Okay. So let's take a look at who else is still available. Oh man, Jackson Smith and Jigba went off. That's who I did want at this spot. But there are a couple other wide receivers too that are very interesting to me and may allow me to have some late round quarterback options if I'd like. Notice how I haven't needed to pick a quarterback yet because the wide receivers that I've picked and the running back that I picked aren't like the quarterbacks aren't drafted early. So that gives me a little bit more leverage on the field that I don't need to be, drafting the Joe Burrows and the Jalen Hurts early if you attack wide receiver in this way. Okay. One of the wide receivers that I think is getting undervalued in drafts is Brandon Ayuk. And I'm going to take Ayuk here in the 7th round, behind Jackson Smith and Jigba, behind Christian Kirk. If you remember, Brandon Ayuk, over 1,000 receiving yards last year. He was the leading receiver when Debo was out. And if Brock Purdy is back to himself, that could be really interesting. But also, like, if Trey Lance hits, it's because he's hitting Ayuk and not because he's dumping off to Debo Samuel or hitting him close to the line of scrimmage. Last year, Brandon Ayuk was wide receiver 15 in PPR. Okay, 78 receptions, 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns. Yeah, and only 13 yards per reception. So I'm here for Brandon Ayuk in round 7. Okay, as the wide receiver 34 off the board. There are paths for him to be successful as my wide receiver 6. Absolutely. So if we think about it this way, right, at minimum, I'm now getting 3 wide receivers almost every week, no matter what. And that gives me an extremely safe floor for wide receiver help and flex rates. Okay. And even like Brandon Ayuk last year, 23% of the time was a flex option, but 4% of the time he was top 5. Another 5% of the time he was between 5 and 10. 7% of the time he was between 10 and 18, and another 7% of the time he was a flex play. So he was pretty evenly distributed among having some spike games. He wasn't just spiky. So he could fill in very nicely as a pretty consistent flex play that offsets the volatility that Jameson Williams may have in my best ball lineup. So at this point, my wide receiver room is pretty set, and now I can start looking to other positions, and especially, now that the quarterbacks are available or coming off the board. Are you kidding me? Tua goes off the board. Like, what the heck? At quarterback 12 and 13. Geno Smith goes off the board. But that just means that I'm going to have to look to now Russell Wilson and Jared Goff. So because I don't see Russ having gone off the board, I think Russell Wilson is going to be probably the quarterback that I need. Either that or, let's take a look at Jared Goff as well. Oh, did Jared Goff go off? He may have. Yes, he did. That is frustrating. But we're probably going to get Russell Wilson here unless I get sniped. Okay, and at least that stacks with my Jerry Jeudy. I feel, frustrated that I couldn't get Tua. That was annoying, given that there's no stack there. And Geno Smith does stack with DK, so I don't understand why he couldn't have gone with, someone else or just waited. Whatever. I can be salty here, but Russell Wilson goes off after Aaron Rodgers. Why? Okay, man, oh man. We see 4 running backs, 3 quarterbacks go off the board. This is this is wild late night drafting for you, 10 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, Jose is asking, are you not worried about getting a quarterback? Looks like all the top ones are gone. Yeah, I got sniped around this turn. I thought that Tua and Goff and Russell Wilson would probably be available to me. And there are some really, really major mistakes happening in the drafts that are kind of messing with me. But at least I'll have the Jerry Jeudy, Russell Wilson stack. I'm happy with that. And now I'm just going to have to take best player available, especially given the running back position, and seeing if there are some late wide receiver values that may precipitate another quarterback that might be undervalued. And right now, this is I'm looking at some of the running backs that are available that may be coming back around, and I'm interested in those. And punting tight end is definitely something that I'm considering, given that Travis Kelce had gone off the board and I was sniped on Mark Andrews. I didn't think there was value in Kyle Pitts and George Kittle at those points. So tight end has not gone my way and quarterback has not gone my way in this draft. That's okay, though. Sometimes things happen in your draft and you just need to tread water. You need to go with the flow, let the draft come to you. And at least at this point, Russell Wilson at quarterback 17 has a very nice path to not only paying off that ADP, but also ascending with Jerry Jeudy at wide receiver 22. So I like that. I may consider later on taking Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, later on. So we'll see how that's going to work out. I'm going to look at like the ADPs of Trey Lance. It looks like he's going at 128. And then even later, Brock Purdy is going at 232. So I'm not too worried about all of that. Yeah, we see Burks, Dotson, Pickens go off the board. That's pretty nice. Javonte Williams at running back 28. We haven't seen a lot of running backs go off the board over the last couple picks. I think there are some picks here. Jose is asking, this league is not part of a tournament, right? This is a closed 12-team best ball league. I'm pretty sure this is, let me just check, because this was just the $35 best ball live draft. This is not the never too early super flex. Yeah, this is just your regular best ball. Yeah. Stacks are not as important in non-tournament best ball. I mean, look, if I get sniped on this, it is what it is. But I'm pretty sure that these are part of the $35, like a $35 tournament. Okay. Perhaps I'm mistaken, but I don't think so. So we see Derek Carr and Jordan Love going off at quarterback 18 and 19. Talk about like low upside plays. Zach Charbonnet at running back 30. Oh, that's who I was hoping would come back to me. I do like Charbonnet at this ADP, or pretty close to it. Yeah, I don't like some of the values at running back. But maybe we'll just have to take Cortland Sutton goes off the board. Why are you sniping me? April 13th. Cortland Sutton goes off the board. He wasn't even in like anyone's queue. And I don't think he matches with anyone. Okay, Dalton Schultz goes off the board. I think Schultz is a high floor, low ceiling type of tight end that we can take a look at. But I do need some running backs. And I just wrote up about James Cook. Okay, James Cook was the number one running back in breakaway run rate. He was second in true yards per carry, and I can't remember the other stat, but he was top 3 in some pretty nice efficiency stats. He was also top 20 in PFF receiving grade among running backs, and he was top 20 in yards per route run among running backs. So James Cook, with an increased role, which Brandon Beane has alluded to in the combine, I like him at running back 31. I think he can pay off pretty nicely. So I'm taking some pass catching running backs. You have to remember, FFPC is full PPR. It is also tight end premium. So I am going to have to look at, some tight end values coming up here, but I like the James Cook pick. I feel like he can pay off pretty nicely given my build. It also does give me some nice profiles. I feel like I'm drafting a similar team every time on here. Perhaps that's because I'm stuck in the middle of the draft, or perhaps it's because, you see this underlying philosophy of, I want pass catching running backs. I want, high upside wide receivers. I like stacking picking up, lots of wide receivers. Russell Wilson was a nice value at quarterback 17. I am going to have to look and see what other values there are at quarterback, because that's coming up very soon. Okay. Wow. We are getting annihilated at quarterback. The 112 has outed themselves as not very good, drafting 4 quarterbacks. And I don't think stacking any of them. Maybe a potential Bryce Young stack somewhere. Nowhere. Okay. So Odell Beckham going as wide receiver 44. I think that's a little rich for right now, given the flux of Lamar Jackson. If Jackson leaves, then that tanks Odell Beckham for sure. Because I don't know maybe the Ravens, if Lamar Jackson doesn't work out, they go with, like a Carson Wentz. That could be an interesting play. All right. Well, we're going to go with another stackable piece. And, I'm not a huge Greg Dulcich guy. Like, I'm not pounding the table for Dulcich. That's not like the Bradley brand. but it is a stackable piece. And we saw some nice things from Greg Dulcich last year. So if he's, in tight end premium, if he is going to be the starting tight end, great. If not, then Albert Okuegbunam, might be the play. And if Okuegbunam, works out, then, and Greg Dulcich does not, then I'll be sorely disappointed. But nevertheless, it's the right spot for Dulcich draft wise, and it stacks with Russell Wilson. So I'm okay with it. Especially given that Russell Wilson was not drafted highly, in this draft, quarterback 17. So to get his, if Dulcich gets a touchdown, that could be, a difference maker. I mean, if Dulcich gets a touchdown, that puts him ahead of the Pat Freiermuths of the world, and perhaps the Evan Ingrams, even given Evan Ingram's target competition. I haven't done projections for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I have a feeling that all of their median outcomes are going to be a lot lower than what I think the public is putting them at. So yeah, I'm probably, I have David Njoku over Evan Ingram, but I have Njoku over Pat Freiermuth as well. Just how it goes. Okay. Ooh, we've got a lot more wide receiver values coming up. Oh, and this is so tasty. Why? I still don't get why Trey Lance was drafted along with Geno Smith, Tua. Like, literally, this guy is sniping all of my quarterbacks. Okay, this 112. We've seen some really and someone drafted 3 quarterbacks: Dak, Kirk Cousins, and Aaron Rodgers. Why? It's just not as good. Okay. Not as fun when we do things like that. Okay. Well, if you like the content and find this helpful, make sure you hit that red subscribe button. This is something I try to do about once a week, is live drafts. My week has been pretty busy so far. I've been working on some content for myself and for other sites, along with, it's test week at my school that I teach at. And also, I just finished my class, my ed specialist class tonight. So that's been pretty busy, but it's the off season, and that's part of the ebb and flow of, of the season. So there we go. Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in so far. We are now finishing round 10, and my build is a 1-2-6-1 build. And I think there's some egregious builds out there. Someone has a 4-2-3-1 build. Someone has a 3-5-1-1 build. This is why you draft so late, because you give yourself a real chance of being, of crafting a good team, structuring it well, giving yourself some upside picks. And I really do like some of the players that are coming up, their upside, the upside that they can access is coming up very soon. Yeah. I like it. All right. Israel Abanikanda comes off the board at this spot. Wow, that is spicy. I don't hate that pick, but it is very, very early. Man, oh man. Why did CJ Stroud go off for fantasy before Anthony Richardson? I don't understand that. There's just some phenomenal value here. Oh, wow. Do we go Quentin Johnson or Jordan Addison? I feel like I've drafted a lot of both of them. Let's draft Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison was, he was projected to be like, I think one of the draft analysts had him as like a top 9 pick or like value in the draft. And I don't think that that's going to necessarily be true, but Jordan Addison also fell out of the first round in the mock draft, most recent mock draft for Lance Zierlein. I think that Jordan Addison will be just fine. And we see Zay Flowers and Quentin Johnson go off immediately afterwards. So I think I'll come back around and take just pluck some more value. If Kyler Murray goes off at quarterback 23, that's a nice value pick. Yeah, now I'm going to start looking at some other late round quarterbacks. Like I did mention earlier, Ryan Tannehill is a consideration. We'll see if he comes back around a little bit later. There are some other values, but I just can't pass up these really, really high upside wide receivers that are projected to get first round draft capital. Antonio Gibson goes off. Okay. And I think I am going to have to start looking at running backs, in particular, rookie running backs who can be of massive value, but also if there are some veterans who drop significantly, that could be eyebrow raising. Oh yes, there are some running backs here that could be extremely valuable. Cole Kmet goes off the board at tight end 15. I mean, that's fine. We saw some spike weeks from Cole Kmet last year, and the problem is, though, Cole Kmet is also on the same team as Pat Freiermuth, David Njoku, and Darren Waller. It's just going to be hard for Cole Kmet to offer any upside in the flex position because that's what you're banking on. Okay. And now we see a Rashawn Johnson go off, Donta Foreman, Kenneth Gainwell. I'm kind of disappointed because I did want to draft some Rashawn Johnson there. But also there are other running backs that I like later, like late in drafts. And if I can pick off those values, so be it. Okay. I'm on the clock. And I'm going to take a look at some of the rookie running backs that I have some higher ranks on. Looks like, did he go? Oh, A-Chain went off. That was not very good. Jawan Johnson went off. I've got 35 seconds. That's fine. Let's see. We've got Stafford and Pickett, Darnell Mooney, possibly McBride. Anthony Richardson is perfect at this spot. He could land in a number of places. He could land in Detroit, which would be nice for my Jameson Williams. And he could just be solo by himself. And quarterback 24 for fantasy, I mean, there's a path for Anthony Richardson to be a top 12 fantasy quarterback. There's paths for it. But that's why it's unlikely that he'll be able to, get there. But he has the physical tools. He's heavier and as fast as Derrick Henry, and he can throw the ball. So he's a 10 out of 10 RAS quarterback. Can't ignore that elite upside. So to get him this late in round 12, he just offers, and this is best ball, he offers upside that at this point in the draft, like what Matthew Stafford, I mean, maybe Stafford, has a real bounce back year, but I'm taking Anthony Richardson over Mac Jones, over Jimmy Garoppolo. Those quarterbacks have no chance of getting even just 7%, 5% of top 5 weeks, right? They just can't simply access that type of upside. So I like this Anthony Richardson pick at quarterback 24. I feel like that's going to be extremely valuable. Okay. What else? We're going to need some running backs here soon. I only have 2, but I can attack the running back position with some other values that I've identified. Okay, let's go to running back. Who else is there? Okay. All right, and I've just laid the groundwork for some running backs who will be in a good position to jump up boards. We see coming off after Anthony Richardson, Elijah Mitchell, KJ Osborne, Darnell Mooney, Adam Thielen, Tyler Higbee. I should probably consider a tight end as well at these spots. Some tight ends that are available. I do like some of the upside and see if there are other like stackable pieces. I already have Denver's, but Detroit's tight end may not be on the team yet. Kittle's already off the board. Don't know who this is going to be for Jordan Addison. We see Justin Tucker goes the kicker 1 in round 13. Still feels suboptimal there. Okay. Yeah, Gerald Everett might be really valuable. We liked Gerald Everett getting a lot of targets last year. Okay, Kenny Pickett. Okay, goes off at quarterback 26. I'm not really in the business of getting after a quarterback like Kenny Pickett at this point. I know that there were some short spurts where Kenny Pickett was a valuable quarterback, but I'm not in on Kenny Pickett for 2023. You know, as long as Matt Canada is there, count me out on Kenny Pickett. He's going to need a different offensive coordinator for him to be able to access the type of upside that we want to see from him. Okay, it looks like I am on the clock. And Raheem Mostert and Tyler Boyd just go off the board, which tees me up for taking some running backs. And you know what? Let's go with Tank Bigsby. I've taken some Tank Bigsby, but I think you need to not be ignoring Tank Bigsby when he gets day 2 draft capital. That would be really nice. Running back 49 can pay off really well. Okay. And then looking at, let me see here. Tank Bigsby, yeah, round 3 projected draft capital for the Auburn. Right now, his ADP is, at 90. So back into the 3rd round, most drafted by Dallas. If he goes to Dallas, that could be a really nice landing spot. If he goes to the Bengals, also a really nice landing spot. And then the Eagles are the top 3 projected teams to be taking Tank Bigsby. And Bigsby over the last 3 seasons has had at least an 81.8 PFF grade. So that's extremely good. 90 rush grade last year. And we like him as, a 3rd round pick who can catch passes and be an effective runner. He was getting early 2nd round draft capital projections last year. He's dropped a little bit, but still 3rd round draft capital is not going to be bad for a player like that. So getting some rookie running backs gives me the potential for upside, and especially if Bigsby gets 3rd round day 2 draft capital, or even early 4th round is not going to be terrible. Like, look at what happened with Tyler Algier, right? A capable runner. So Tank Bigsby coming to me at running back 49. I like that. And then we see another kicker go off the board, Evan McPherson. I like the Rondell Moore draft pick, wide receiver 58. Michael Thomas paired with him as well is an interesting selection at that spot. I know that Bigsby was a little early, but, at this point of the draft, you want to be getting like, quote unquote, your guys for, this is starting to get to be the Wild West. Man, Ryan Tannehill goes off. That's a pretty safe quarterback. Okay. Yeah, let me go with another quarterback that's probably going to be drafted very early, and this will solidify my quarterback room. I mean, we're talking about just raw upside. Friend of the podcast, Will Levis, is my selection at quarterback 28. I mean, it's all upside from there. He's my quarterback 3. I have Russell Wilson, already there, but this gives me asymmetrical upside, as the Podfather likes to say, right? This gives me all it like Ryan Tannehill has significant downside. Matthew Stafford, downside. Kenny Pickett, downside. But at this point in the draft, you want players who can feasibly outperform those quarterback draft slots. And I think Will Levis and Anthony Richardson have the upside to be able to outperform the Derek Carrs and Jordan Loves the world, and even the Aaron Rodgers and Geno Smiths of the world in the upside realm, the Bryce Youngs of the world. I think that they can access that, but will they? No, that's why, or not as likely. That's why they're getting quarterback 24, quarterback 28 draft capital. Give me the Will Levis possibility of him hitting the nuts on, week 17, week 16, week 15, by the time he's gotten 10 games under his belt for one big game where I need him, versus who came off next off the board? Donovan Peoples-Jones went off the board. Donovan Peoples-Jones was one of the worst wide receivers among in PFF receiving grade last year. And Peoples-Jones was 67th among wide receivers last year in rate at which he was a flex play. And he's going at wide receiver 61. There's just no upside to be had with Donovan Peoples-Jones, and you want him here? Yeah, no. This is why you structure your lineups the way that you do. Okay? So now I know that I've harped on, value. Oh, Josh Downs goes off at wide receiver 62. Oh, man, I love Josh Downs this late, round 14. Okay, but this also sets me up for there's some crusty old running backs out there and available, but I'm just going to let the draft continue to come to me and keep pushing them lower and lower. Okay, we've seen what? 5 kickers go off the board. Yeah, I'm not attacking kicker at this point. I mean, one team has 2 kickers already. That's a mistake in my opinion. Oh well. I can't draft these teams for that. I mean, when you're gonna trot out Derek Carr and Jordan Love and then go double kicker, whatever. You guys are gonna draft your teams. I'll draft mine, and that's why we play this game, because maybe this is the variance that falls toward Mac Jones has a massive year, or Jordan Love is the second coming of Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. Sure, anything can happen, but when it comes to ranges of outcomes, that's why you need to be betting on these high draft capital or highly projected players. Okay, we're now more than halfway through the draft, and I'm very happy with how the upside for my quarterbacks is, who are some of the highest scoring players, mind you. I've got an anchor running back in DeAndre Swift. James Cook can sprinkle in. I'm going to hammer the rest of running backs. And then tight end, I can punt tight end as well. Tight end does not contribute very much already. And I was not able to get Kelsey, and I was sniped on Mark Andrews. So that's how you have to play this game right now. All right, so we see double kicker going off yet again. We see 2 teams now with 2 kickers, and I can't do it. I just can't do it. All right, we'll see who comes off next, but there are some rookies that I like. Okay, so let's take Kendre Miller at this spot as running back 52. I mean, once these running backs get day 2 draft capital, that can be absolutely fire for your team. Kendre Miller right now is projected at pick 118. Okay, round 4. But he's out of TCU, 3rd round possibility. Maybe he falls a little bit. But once again, he's most drafted by Dallas, by Cincinnati, and the Chicago Bears. His 75th percentile draft right now is pick 92. And he's probably not going to fall out of the fourth round. So Kendre Miller plus Tank Bigsby plus James Cook. I mean, yeah, you got to lean into a little bit of these rookie running backs, but that's why you're playing this game is there's uncertainty. We don't know where they're going to land, but they're getting projected to land in very fantasy interesting spots and at decent enough draft capital that they could carve out a very nice role. And there's also some really crusty but valuable veterans still on the board. So we'll see who else can come off to me. But we're seeing double kicker yet again. So some kicker runs. I'll probably have to get one here very soon, just for the sake of keeping up and not. Yeah, we see McManus go off the. It's too bad it's not team kicker, right? We could go team kicker. That could be super valuable. Yeah. Yeah, and I have kickers in mind that I like. Okay, so we see Brandon McManus go off the board. Graham Gano at kicker 10. Irv Smith at tight end 2022 does not stack with anyone. I was hoping that, the Joe Burrow drafter. Oh, no. The reason why I can't take Irv Smith is because he's taking Darren Waller and Pat Freiermuth and David Njoku and Cole Kmet. That's why you kind of screw yourself out of this, is because you don't have that correlation. Okay. Desmond Ridder, the auto pick. Jake Elliott, auto pick. Man, triple kicker at this point in the draft. There's so many valuable picks. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Team 11 is in trouble. Team 12 is in trouble. Who are some other teams? Team 7 is in trouble. Yeah. Yikes. Going 4 running backs and then 3 quarterbacks through the first 8 rounds. Not loving that. Not loving it. Okay, if you have questions, if you want to know a little bit more about the draft board, my strategies, ask away. That's what this is for. Learning, getting some practice in. This is a $35, 1 quarterback, 2 running back, I believe 3 wide receivers, a tight end, but it's tight end premium, full PPR. There are kickers and defenses being drafted. Dallas's goes off the board as the defense 2. San Francisco's defense went off in round 13. We're now into round 16. This is a 28 round draft. Oh, it looks like I am on the clock. And I will stack with my Detroit with Badgley. Okay, I'm pretty sure Badgley re-signed. That would be a shame if I took him and he ended up not. But I'm pretty sure Badgley resigned with the Detroit Lions. Should have checked before I drafted him, but I'm pretty sure that he re-signed. Yeah. Current team signed with the Detroit Lions. Yep. His nickname is the Money Badger. I love it. That's phenomenal. I did not know that about Michael Badgley, but now I'm a huge fan. And when you're kicking indoors and you've got the Detroit correlation, it just makes sense to be drafting Michael Badgley at this spot. Okay. So Michael Badgley. Oh man, my eyes are really bugging me right now. I've been on Zoom University for 3 hours and then now going to do an hour and a half draft with y'all. But this is what y'all deserve in my community, the Best Bell Fantasy community. Make sure if you like the content, you're hitting that subscribe button so that I can continue to bring you great content here. Okay. And Jose is jumping in. You're dedicated, Bradley. I appreciate you, Jose. I appreciate you. I really do. Okay, so we see coming off Jason Sanders, some defenses. It's hard to get a read on these defenses as well. because a lot can change from the draft. Like, a lot can change from the draft. And at this point, you more want volume of defenses than quality of defenses, because good defenses can still get into shootouts and give up lots of fantasy points. Like Dallas, yeah, they may force turnovers, but could they get into more shootouts this year? That's a possibility. Okay. So we'll see how that goes. You probably don't want interdivisional teams, because, if you take a 0 in defense, that would be bad. And interdivisional teams will sometimes have their bye weeks the same week. So I'd rather take the shot that these teams don't have the same bye week if they are not in the same division. So I'd rather risk it that way. All right. So that's kind of when we don't know the schedule at this point and we're drafting kickers and defense, in particular defense, and we don't know the schedule, just not picking the same division. Okay. So that's how, although there is one defense that I'd be willing to take if it comes back around to me. Yeah. Because there's a very good one still hanging out. And one that's trending upward. So, yeah, we'll see if this particular defense will stay. And it's not New England, so I'm not sniped there at this point. Jose is asking, how do you handle a defense in a best ball draft? If we don't know the schedule, then, as I mentioned before, I don't want to pick defenses that are in the same division, because teams that are in the same division might be on the same bye week. But when it comes to defense in these best ball drafts, and we do know the schedule, of course you don't want them overlapping, but also consider stacking your defenses and kickers. Okay. Stacking them with your particular team. So if you think that your team is going to do well, like let's say I've gone with Miami, for instance, or I've gone with Detroit, consider those, like sticking with the same team, but also minding bye weeks is going to be key as well. That's pretty much it. You'd rather have 3 shots of a defense than 2 shots of better defenses. Okay. So volume for defenses is going to be key. So probably, 3 defenses and 3 kickers if you can afford it. And just reading the room for how kickers and defenses are going off. So I was able to get a kicker that stacked with some of the wide receivers, stacked with Swift and Jameson Williams, okay, that I drafted earlier. So Badgley for the Detroit Lions. Yeah, but Brandon McManus went off, so I couldn't get, and there we go. Trying to looking at who else could be there. Oh, good. The defense that I want is there, and we're going to go with Baltimore. I think Baltimore is one of those trending upward defenses. And if they are not involved in shootouts, like, if they trade Lamar Jackson, they're probably not going to be involved in a lot of shootouts. The defense is really good and really scary. So for me to get Baltimore's defense, that could be a very nice one. And it allows me to maybe wait a little bit more on defense as well. I don't need to go defense if Baltimore is the one that's going to be carrying me for a while. Okay. And also another thing to keep in mind is historically defenses don't shift too terribly much if they have the same coordinators and they have the same, coaching staff. So that's why New England and Buffalo and Philly are usually pretty good picks at these points. But also, I might come back around and take, a Detroit defense to stack with the kicker and the defense. And if all the things go right, Detroit could be, they've invested significantly in this defense. They just traded Okudah for a 5th rounder, but that more telegraphs that they're going to draft a cornerback in the 1st round is my guess. Like if we're betting men or women, I'm a betting man. I bet that Detroit has a good chance of drafting a cornerback in the first round. Okay. So that's something to consider at this point. All right. We saw a couple auto drafts in round 15 and 16 from the 112 spot, but he comes back and takes Jelani Woods and Kaimi Fairbairn. All right. Nico Collins and Hunter Henry go off. Those are some nice picks. Let me just check and see if there are any other values. Matt Prater goes off the board. Ooh, I see a possible first round wide receiver hanging out, but also there's a possible first round tight end that's hanging out here. Yeah, I'm up next, and there's some value still out here, but I do need a running back. We're going to take running back Sean Tucker. Okay. And I have really hammered, these running backs. Sean Tucker, pick 129 in a recent mock that I did. He does have, fourth round projected draft capital, but he's had a 77 PFF grade each or better each of the last couple of years. He's got elite juice, shot out of a cannon. He's built like he was carved out of marble, very low body fat. Defenders bounce off his thighs. He's not very creative when he runs, but he's 5'9", 207. Okay. And he's 21 years old. So he's very explosive, but very linear. And if he can get, some a nice landing spot, that could be very valuable. PFF gives him shades of Jonathan Taylor. I think that's a little optimistic. I would not go, that way. But if, once again, Sean Tucker, if he lands on Dallas, Seattle, or Chicago, those could be, in particular, Dallas, like all of these running backs, these rookie running backs that I've taken, Kendre Miller, Tank Bigsby, could be just landing on, I'm just trying to hit the right spot for these. And running back 58, I mean, Leonard Fournette just went off the board. Kareem Hunt just went off the board. I do like, Jeff Wilson going off at wide receiver or running back 55. And Jake Ferguson going off at tight end 27. Kincaid was going to be my pick at tight end 26. But unfortunately that did not happen. Okay. There are some other very good tight ends out there at this point as well for fantasy consideration, but there is a projected possible first round wide receiver also hanging out, and that would be perfect for, best ball drafts. But we're also in need of kickers and defense, and it looks like there have been, some defenses going off the board. I'll probably end up taking the Detroit defense here to complete the stack unless someone snipes me. Okay, so Detroit is queued up here unless, as I said, someone snipes me. But for right now, there's one team ahead of me who has two defenses already, and I'm not going to probably get a third. They're probably not going to get a third defense at this point. Running back Chuba Hubbard goes off the board, running back 60. I like that pick. I like Hubbard at running back 60. He had some nice efficiency metrics. He had nice receiving metrics as well. Noah Fant goes off the board. Man, this is a nice drafter. This one at the 105. These later round picks are nice. Okay, so let's go with, Detroit. Drafting them for defense. So we've got some stacking happening. I am going to need to address the tight end position. Unfortunately, I've been sniped at all of the times that I've wanted to take some of the tight ends that have been queued up. And we're running out of viable tight end possibilities, but I'm looking, and there are a couple remaining on the board. Jalen Hyatt was the wide receiver going off wide receiver 68 that could have been, extremely valuable. The fact that you're going from round 14, Josh Downs, wide receiver 62, to round 19, Jalen Hyatt, wide receiver 68, tells you all you need to know. that drafters are not believing in Jalen Hyatt, but it's best ball, right? Jalen Hyatt's projected either early second round or even first round draft capital. And as much as we don't like, Hyatt, from a pure prospect perspective, I mean, he's going to get mid second round, maybe sneak into the back end of the first round draft capital. In Lance Zierlein's initial mock, Jalen Hyatt was like back end of the first round, or actually, no, he was the first wide receiver off the board, if I remember correctly. So there you go. Okay, cool. So there we go. Thanks, Jose. Appreciate you tuning in, and appreciate everyone on the YouTube and on Twitch hanging out. Thanks for jumping in the chat and taking a look at this team with me. Okay. Yeah, there's some nice values coming off. Alec Pierce, wide receiver 69. Nice. Marquez Valdez-Scantling at wide receiver 70. Taysom Hill. Oh, man. I was hoping to get some Taysom Hill. Seattle's defense goes off the board. It looks like Austin Hooper is going to be the starting tight end for the Vegas Raiders. And I mean, tight end 32 doesn't need much to pay off at that spot. Not a stacking possibility, but with Will Levis possibly going to the Raiders, with Anthony Richardson possibly going to the Raiders, maybe Austin Hooper becomes a nice little pick there. I'm probably going to go with a third tight end as well here, just to firm up that position, and one that is not drafted as much, maybe. Yeah, I'm looking at some of the rookies, and I don't know how much I trust those rookies. And Zach Ertz, I mean, is still there, but Ertz is coming off of the ACL tear last year. I'm not in on drafting Zach Ertz very early, especially if Trey McBride is the tight end for Arizona and doesn't let go of that starting position. In fact, I don't think there are any starting tight ends left except maybe Logan Thomas still hanging out. I mean, Cade Otton, if you really want to stretch it, but I don't know. I'm not willing to do that. Maybe Cade Otton is the pick, though, if Will Levis goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which the Buccaneers just used a top 30 visit pick on Will Levis. So there you go. Maybe we add Cade Otton to the tight end roulette wheel here. Jose says 28 rounds is quite a lot. I agree. 28 rounds is a long time, but it also gives us chances to take late stabs at some players that would not normally be picked. So I get it, but at the same time, this is another type of draft that can be one. It can be a valuable one to attack. So we've seen. Ooh, okay. I need to do some research on some kickers because I feel like I need to get some kicker value here. Let's see. Let me see. I think that there was just, yes, a trade of a particular kicker. Yeah, you don't hear about trades about kickers very often, but this one I'm going to add. Oh, please don't snipe me. Okay. Yeah, normally we don't have kickers in these best ball drafts, but we're going to take our kick at some kickers, and in a few picks I'll take one unless I get sniped, and then I don't even know where we're going to go if that happens. because I'm just banking on this kicker being available. Right now, I am low on tight end, but I'm probably going to hit up another tight end after Austin Hooper after this kicker. So probably come back around in round 22 and take another tight end. All right, Akua Boonham goes off the board. I mean, Akua Boonham has some nice upside. All right, we're going to go with the new kicker for the San Francisco 49ers, and that is Zane Gonzalez. He was just traded from Carolina to San Francisco. So, well, he was 20 of 22 for Carolina last year in field goals. We'll take that. Okay. So I've got two kickers, Zane Gonzalez and Michael Badgley, the money badger. I've got two defenses so far. And then now I can just turn my attention to running back and tight end pretty much the rest of the way. And if there are any values at kicker or defense, I'll take those. I'll probably take a third defense, probably one of the last ones. You just never know who's going to be available there. I'll win. If I win this league, it's going to be because of my quarterbacks and my wide receivers, and my running backs are just going to hold on for dear life is how I'm going to attack this one. Okay. Let's see who else could be valuable. Looking through some more mock drafts here. Possibility. Okay. Yeah, I think I'll look at some running backs and tight ends. We see Bellinger is there, but he's, stuck behind Darren Waller in New York. Laporta could be valuable. Let's see. Darnell Washington could be interesting. Musgrave, Laporta. But we're going to take a running back, Chase Brown, projected 4th round. Okay, Chase Brown is most drafted by the Bears, the Dallas Cowboys, and Seattle Seahawks. His ADP is floating between 129 and 147. He's a projected 5th round pick, but 23 years old, 5'9", 209, 81 or better PFF grade each of the last 2 years. All right, and he has shades of Khalil Herbert. Yeah, so there we go. A little bit of Chase Brown out of Illinois. Let me also look at a few other running backs that I'll just queue up. I like these late ones. You just never know which one of these guys are going to fit in with a team, whether they get 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round draft capital. That could be the difference between them, filling in a pretty weekly role and being an absolute bust for you. And at this point in the wide receiver range, like we're seeing like the Kayshon Bouttys, the Terrace Marshalls of the world, the Richie James, right? Wide receiver 70s. Like there's not a lot of appeal, whereas the running backs can definitely appeal at this spot. Right now I've got 6 running backs. I've got 7 wide receivers. I haven't drafted a wide receiver since round 11. Okay, but I have 7 in the first 11 rounds. So it's a pretty balanced draft. Well, balanced as in eventually it works out. This pendulum swinging, taking these values here. Coming up here, another spot, and Sam Laporta goes off the board. Very interesting. Zach Evans goes off the board. I'm going to take Darnell Washington. And Washington is projected to go in the second round. He's most likely to be drafted by the Lions, but also the Bengals and the Packers. And his ADP projected draft capital is 58th overall. So back end of the second round, 6'6", 264. He's 21 years old. He wins with his size. He is an inline tight end, but getting him as a supreme athlete is wild. 28 receptions, 454 receiving yards, 16 yards per reception. He's not had lower than 15 yards per reception during any one of his 3 seasons at Georgia, and he played 10 games each of the last 3 years. Okay. So his comp on Player Profiler, Troy Nicholas, I don't know who that is, but he's just a massive, massive dude. And when I've got 2 other tight ends plus just an upside tight end 37, who could get second round draft capital, maybe hit near the end of the season, that could work out for me. Okay. Cool. All right, we are down to our last 5 rounds, round 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. And I could take a defense. I could take a kicker. That would sure me up pretty well. Let's take a look at what defenses are still available. Indy, Carolina, Tennessee, Atlanta, Minnesota, Arizona, Houston, and Vegas. So let's see. I took Detroit defense. I also took Baltimore's defense. Arizona's defense probably not going to be too good. Indy's defense was pretty good for most of the year last year. And so let's go with Indy. In a division that probably isn't going to have a lot of defensive upside or offensive upside, aside from Jacksonville. Jacksonville's going to be pretty good this year. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in so far. We are down to our last 4 picks. I appreciate y'all who have been staying with me. I've got a few others in my queue. I'm going to see if there's any other kickers as well that could be of fantasy usefulness. Yeah, while I'm doing that, if you like the content and find this helpful, make sure you hit that red subscribe button on the YouTube. It really, really helps the channel grow and get better, and I appreciate all y'all. So thanks in advance for all that support and love. Right, so we are now entering into round 25. So much fun with that. Let me see. Filter position. All right, let me see. There is. Did he already go off? That's exciting. Ooh, okay. Jake Moody already went off the board. The kicker out of Michigan. Okay. We'll see what kind of draft capital he gets. Yeah, but he's PFF's big board 315th player. So I don't know if he's going to get drafted or not, but we'll see. We will see. Sometimes there are degenerates like us who are looking at rookie kickers, but I can't pass up an opportunity to take DeWayne McBride. I mean, y'all know me, DeWayne McBride, no matter what. Let's zoom in for the camera. DeWayne McBride, no matter what. That's right. So we are in round 25, and I'm getting DeWayne McBride. Yes, running back 72. Beautiful. I love it. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to stay on brand. DeWayne McBride, round 25. I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay. Yes, DeWayne McBride, no matter what. All right. Jose checking out, good to go. We'll watch the replay. Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate you tuning in, Jose. It's been quite the night. Not quite 11:30, but almost there on the East Coast. For those West Coasters, I appreciate y'all staying up until 8:30, at night. But here we are. Death, taxes, and Bradley takes DeWayne McBride after running back 70 in best ball drafts. Yeah. Give me all of that. Okay. Yeah, let's see who else or what else we can do with getting a queue set up at this point. We're going to look at some massive values. See if there are some other late round big time values. I'm just scrolling right now and seeing if there are players who are just mispriced. Maybe I'll scroll down to those who have ADP 0, scroll back up. Because if you are on Drafters Fantasy, Xavier Hutchinson was having an ADP of 0. So, and I was just scooping him up everywhere because the ADP hadn't, adjusted at that point. So it looks like there really aren't too many values back down here. Ooh. All right, we'll take Evan Hull. Sure, why not? There are a couple values very, very late in these best ball drafts. Yeah, maybe a stacking possibility. Ooh, I like that. Okay. I mean, we're getting into really, really late picks. Like Jamal Agnew is this late, right? That's wild. Like even if he gives you just 1 week, he's paid off. Yeah, any player at this point that gives you a fantasy relevant week is a value, frankly. Oh man. Oh, there are a couple very late here. I don't know if I'll be able to draft them, but I'm just adding to my queue right now. And it's nice to be able to just scroll through and see, oh, that player could work out. That's another player. Yeah, seeing what values could be scooped up very, very, very late. And that's, I guess, the benefit of these 28 round drafts is, we see like Braxton Berrios going off, and like good for Berrios getting drafted. So I like Braxton Berrios as a player, and he certainly has some interesting burst metrics that can be coveted by. Maybe he is, the number 3 wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins. That is a possibility. Not going to rule that out. Okay. Yeah, there are definitely some late round picks that could be fantasy viable. I am on the clock. And I'm going to take this player, KJ Hamler, because he stacks and also is like super duper late. He was being undrafted, like he was in the 800, 900s. So I'll take that. I mean, how many people are going to be scrolling through and saying, "Oh, KJ Hamler," right? That probably not many. If his ADP is still this low, not enough people are taking Hamler. And I know Hamler is dealing with the injury, and Tim Patrick, I wonder if Patrick has been sniped off. Yeah, probably, but I mean, worth checking, right? He's off the board. And we're getting into the last round of the draft. Whoop whoop. All right. So yeah, we've gone DeWayne McBride and then Evan Hull. Those are two players that I'm very comfortable taking this late. I like, there's just asymmetrical upside. Like, what do you have to lose by drafting Evan Hull and then even KJ Hamler to stack at this point? Oh, man. Really? He's still hanging out there? Oh, baby. Okay, I definitely I'll need to take that player. Do I, though? I think I'm just going to go with my two kickers. The rookie kicker, Andre Smith, was a consideration, but I'm not going to go with the third kicker. I've just decided in this last round. Ilyasova is an interesting wide receiver. Bryce Ford Wheaton, I think, had a good RAS. Xavier Hutchinson could be really valuable. Okay, just adding him to the queue for love and kicks and giggles. But there is there are two running backs that I would consider taking at this spot. Both young running backs, one rookie, one second year running back that could carve out a nice role. And maybe we'll just go with the stack possibility because Tyler Beatty is one of my favorite last round running backs. And if we're going with Denver and seeing Denver succeed, then so be it. Like, Hamler, Beatty, Jerry Jeudy, Russell Wilson. There we go. I'm here for it. Okay, so I might have ended up with more running backs than wide receivers, but my wide receivers are very strong. And my tight ends are not going to do very much, but I've got three of them. And so for those watching at home, just to recap the draft, it was a 28-round draft with kickers and defense. I started Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, then went Devonta Smith at wide receiver 12. Running backs were flying off the board. I took running back DeAndre Swift at running back 16, and then Jerry Jeudy, Jameson Williams, Brandon Ayuk. I took 6 wide receivers in the first 7 rounds, and I took Russ to stack with Jeudy because I got sniped on Tua and Jared Goff. Then I took James Cook in round 9, running back 31 at about ADP. And then Greg Dulcich, tight end 13, Jordan Addison at wide receiver 49. And I did not draft another wide receiver till round 27 with KJ Hamler. It's going to be the wide receivers who carry this team, right? It's going to be those and then patchwork the rest of the way. I've got 2 kickers. Michael Badgley, the Money Badger, and Zane Gonzalez of San Francisco. And then I've got 3 defenses, Baltimore, Detroit, and Indy, along with a lot of late round running backs. I went Swift as my anchor, James Cook as an upside pick, Tank Bigsby, Kendra, Sean Tucker, Chase Brown, DeWayne McBride, Evan Hull, Tyler Beatty. And I'm just putting blind darts at a lot of those rookies. How's it going, EJ? Appreciate you stopping in. Thanks. Yeah, late night streaming and a lot of fun. I haven't done a live stream in a little bit, at least live draft wise. So I was like, I need to do it tonight. I know I had just done 3 hours on the Zoom University, but here we are. Love doing these live drafts, talking through some strategy, talking through some of the players, the upside, where they could land, why I'm taking the structures that I am. And yeah, this is a lot of fun. So I appreciate all of you jumping in, saying hi, visiting, adding to the comments, and giving some love to the channel. So, and EJ, appreciate you as well, brother. So we'll take a look at this. We'll stop sharing that. We'll just change the brand real quick. Boom. Okay. Yeah. So appreciate all y'all. This was a lot of fun. Draft on FFPC tonight. A nice little best ball draft. If you want to take a look at the draft, you can rewind it, or of course, make sure if you like this content, you find it helpful, hit that red subscribe button. It's really great to be supported here on Best Ball Fantasy YouTube channel. There's a lot of great things coming. bestballfantasy.com is going to be up and running here in no time. I've got some good things in the works there, and then also some partnerships that are in the works as well. I'm very excited. There's been some DMs happening, so exciting. Very, very close to making some announcements. And yeah, I'm really grateful for all of you who have tuned in, supported me, supported this YouTube channel, supported the podcast, supported all the things. And all right, yeah, this is it for the night. I gotta go to bed. I'm tired. I got school tomorrow. I gotta do some teaching. Kids are gonna learn about exponents, so something we gotta teach them. All right, everyone. Until next time, I'm Bradley Stalder on behalf of bestballfantasy.com. Have a great night and good luck in the best ball streets.